On this question, we want to find the center, the transverse axis, the vertices, foci, and asymptotes, and then also graph the equation. We have an equation of a hyperbola here, x squared over 81 minus y squared over 64 equals 1. So I knew this was a hyperbola because it had that minus in the equation. So what I like to do first is to figure out the orientation of this hyperbola. So the orientation is either going to be horizontal or vertical. And the way that you can tell whether it's going to be horizontal or vertical is by paying attention to which term, which variable, I guess, is positive and which one is negative. So you'll notice here in the horizontal orientation that your x term is positive and your y term is negative. However, in the vertical orientation, this is a typo here, this should be a minus. Your y term is positive and your x term is negative. So this is a typo that I have in my notes. That should be a minus. So looking at our example, we have x squared over 81 being positive and the y squared over 64 being negative. So we can tell that our hyperbola is going to have a horizontal orientation. Now that's important because that tells us a lot about our hyperbola. Having a horizontal orientation tells us that our important features are all going to line up horizontally. And they line up horizontally along this transverse axis. So this is going to be our transverse axis. It's horizontal. You're going to have the center. Around it you have vertices, and then around that you have your foci. So you have center, vertices, and foci. Now at this point I can already tell what the center is. The center is going to be HK, and in my equation I don't have anything added or subtracted, so I can tell that the center is going to be at the origin 0, 0. Now then I need to find the vertices and the foci, and the way that I find that is using the values of A and B. So we have in the denominator here values of A and B. Now A is going to be the distance between the center and the vertices. So that's this distance here. And C is the distance between the center and the foci. B is a little bit harder to show on this graph, but it has to do with the asymptotes that show where these parts of the graph go. So I'll try to show you that a little bit later. So I know in my equation A is always going to be underneath your positive term. So I can use this 81 here to figure out what A is. I know that A squared is 81, so that means that A is going to be 9. So I know that if I move to the left and to the right of my center, I'm going to get to my vertices. So I'm going to have vertices at negative 9, 0, and 9, 0, because I found that value of A. We found the center and the vertices. The transverse axis passes through the center, and we already said it's horizontal. So we know that the transverse axis is going to be the line y equals 0. I can find the foci with the value of C. I don't know the value of C yet, but I can use this equation here to figure out that value of C. I know that B squared is going to be 64, so B has got to be 8. So then I'll use this equation, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 9 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. 81 plus 64 is C squared. And that is at 165, 155, 145. Now is that a nice square root? No. So C is equal to the square root of 145. And I can find my foci using my center. So from the center, I'm going to move left and right the amount of that foci. So we have negative square root of 145, comma 0, and negative and positive square root of 145, comma 0. So we found the foci and the asymptotes. So your asymptotes are going to be right here. So as I was saying earlier, the value of B is a little bit hard to see on the graph. But if we take the value of B coming off of our vertex, it creates this diagonal going through the center, and that's going to guide us on where to draw our arrows here at the end, where the end behavior of this graph is headed. So visually, that's what B represents. So you can see in our equation for the asymptotes, B is used as the slope. B over A is the slope. That's our rise over run. So our asymptote is going to be y minus k equals plus and minus b over a times x minus h. That's y minus 0. Remember, our center is at 0, 0. B is 8. A is 9. So we have plus and minus 8 over 9. And x minus 0. So simplifying that, we get that our asymptotes are y equals plus and minus 8/9 x. So let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see everything that we worked on there. Okay, it does want us to graph the equation. We have our center at 0, 0. If I go 9 to the left, That's going to get to a vertex 9 to the right. Another vertex. I'm going to count up by 8. That's going to help me to mark out where the asymptotes are. I'll go down by 8. That's the value of B. And this guides me to draw the hyperbolas following those asymptotes.
Thank you for checking out my videos. Have a great day.